Hi, everyone. This is Kir Noel, medical intuitive on navigating the now. Wow, third time, fourth time, here I am again. Um, Very strange times as usual in the last few months. Just to give you a frame of reference, I'm the creator and producer of the How We Heal podcast on navigating the now. Wow, third time, fourth time, here I am again. Very strange times as usual. I'm still on the delayed response from my frame of reference. I'm muting myself so I don't hear the backlog on my speak. So the message of this live stream is how to stay grounded and keep an inner balance. There is no formula for it that is one pointed for each of us to do the same thing. That is not what we're going to be talking about today. I want to say that I want everyone to raise the volume on healing. This is not a sad show. This is not a story of defeat, and now we have to pick up the broken pieces. I have a tremendous amount of, inspired belief in hopefulness for the future. I carry that in me. I'm bringing it to all the platforms I'm on, and I hope you follow me. Go to find my podcast on all the platforms. You can see me tomorrow on TikTok at 3 p.m. where I share insights on how to actually stay grounded, how to activate your own inner healer. I had this amazing teacher, and I say growing up, I was in my 20s. I met her. Her name was Ellen Resch. I found her at the beginning and end of the 18 months that I took an excessive amount of mind-altering drugs. I had the wonderful and privileged childhood of a somewhat trauma-driven family environment. 3 of us were adopted. I was the middle child. That might tell you everything. So I met her in my building in New York, and Ellen became this mother I never had. And what she told me is, your day-to-day process is your schoolroom. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing it right. And the other thing that she always coined, she said, Kir, your life is well done and well arranged. So I would say to all of us, let's try to find every day a way to have that feeling of well arranged. I took my notes that I wrote this morning on my laptop, and I neglected to print them out. So I'm sitting here looking at this little phone screen to kind of keep us on topic. And what I want to share about is a few days ago on one of the TV shows, I think it was The Voice, I heard something I was reluctant to share it today because it's politically motivated. But Whoopi Goldberg said something I thought was amazing. She said, they're going to come to the Super Bowl, ICE, and they're going to pick out people who are dark-skinned and have Hispanic accents. And this black woman said, we should all color our skin brown with makeup and develop, some bad Spanish accents to confuse the hell out of them. How do you find the people you're looking for when all of us look like these people? So that, it resonated in me as, wow, it's true. Communities have power. Communities create huge social change and political change. And when I was listening to Joan Baez, she was saying the problem now, which wasn't the problem in the 60s, is young people had these connections and giant communities that changed the course of the Vietnam War. And, that as well happened during the Civil Rights Movement. I was looking at the history of, and I'm not a history knowledgeable person, political upheavals in our country over the course of its history. And, there have been many, many, many of them. But the core requirement for things to resolve or shift and get better is that a large community develops that resists. So everything I read in the news, everything I see in my family and my friends is teaching me, and I hope it's teaching all of us, that not giving into the fear is the major piece. It's the piece I need to hold every day. and not pretend that someone else can give me back my power. I have the power. So there's this sense that I'm starting to organize by doing these platforms, which for someone at my age is kind of a significant mountain climb. Someone who's never done social platforms. I have this really beautiful private practice that I get clients through my medical community. I don't have to advertise. I don't have to do social platforms. But wow, what a powerful tool if we actively connect those pieces. So I may be one social platform, one person on several social platforms who has some message that hundreds of other people around the world are bringing. And hopefully the algorithms, I'm kind of counting on you algorithms to connect the dots. People talking about don't give them your mind, don't let yourself fall into a crevice or doubt or fear. And my hope for this particular platform is that people will ask me questions about the circumstances they're in. I was thinking, if no one does ask, what do those questions look like? And I'll bring up a few of them at the end of this. We're here for no more than half an hour, especially if there's no audience yet, just because I have that much information to share. So there are places in ourselves that are safe, that I would call our own inner healer. Um, that means the part of us that doesn't buy into any of the dogma or fear-based thinking, the part of us that can actually sit in this room and go, I'm safe, right? I'm safe right now. So maybe I am safe. Maybe my life is safe for now. And I know that's not the way the world is outside of my particular bubble in the Northeast, or for many of us, many of our homes and families feel safe, even with the extreme amount of information we're absorbing. So that part of me that feels safe, I guess every day I'm trying to grow it. And one of the ways I am growing it is sitting here and talking to a monitor and hoping somebody watches it later or with me. And I see that I'm actually starting to very much calm down. I'm surprised how much it helps to be seeking. I think I'm just seeking the community that I'm trying to create. Just the feeling of seeking it. I don't, I have no, I'm surprised. I don't have trouble sleeping yet. Um, yeah, I don't have trouble sleeping. I don't, trauma project. I don't trauma project. I do have a hard time seeing good things that I may have planned and in the future that used to be right in the front of my mind. Those thoughts I may have had 10 years ago or 5 years ago, they're harder to constantly to bring to the front of my mind, where I might have many years ago I would have, yeah, I'm going on that vacation. I want to see this part of the world. Um, and the last couple of years I'm like, what am I going to do about this? I've been comfortable, but it may not stay this way, so maybe it's time to speak out. So we're all connected to this inner sensibility of safety. Healer is another way of saying it. And whether we acknowledge it or not, there's something about that means we understand that we're connected to everyone else. And, it's like when a newborn is born, nobody sits there, nobody looks at it and goes, I hate this kid. I mean, I've never seen that. We can see the uniqueness of of this being that has come, and we can celebrate it. And whether it's ours or not, we can say, wow, this kid's amazing. So there's always this innate sense of sentient being that we all are. The Buddhists say all humans want is to be happy, how to be happy. And then in the same breath or the same paragraph, they'll say, but we're all here in samsara. So we're all suffering and learning and struggling. So I would say right this moment in history, and it's very much a historical time, I'd say samsara is on fire. It's burning. I read today in the New York Times that they have found they found someone who had a fire a couple days before the Palisades fires in Los Angeles, that they may find someone in quotes responsible, that they can say, this is why it happened. Here's what happened. It started the fire. And I read this and I thought it's a little too late. It's not important. And it's not important to know other than, using some legal threshold, legal system, you know, wrangling of it to make sure that people who are affected and lost their homes get money from their insurance companies. I guess that's their point. I think it's a way past knowing that is way past our need to know. Um, so what I was doing this morning when I was thinking about I'm coming here today and I wanted to have my mind very organized and a plan and an intention. So my intention today is to present the possibility that if you're willing to find your own safe space, you can find it. That's my intention today. I hope to give you a little insight into doing that. Um, the direct route for that is to make a decision that every day you want that. So when I wake up, um, I start with this belief system that I've practiced, and that belief system is that I'm not here by myself, that there are things or energies that have created this being I am, this life. And it also, there's something, even if it's just electrical magnetic fields that create our bodies, energy, that's more than me, that creates this connection. And I need to find a way to stay connected to it in the day because every day is a very challenging mental kind of balancing act. Um, so what I do every day is and not perfectly, there are days I wake up and I say, no, I'm not bothered. I don't want to do this today. It's been too many news pieces. I may have read too much that day. But every day I'm taking 2 actions that'll begin this transformation. So, and that is really simple stuff, but wow, to do it on a consistent basis, like going to the gym, is always difficult. I do have that habit of taking care of the body, and that was something I learned later in life. And well, not that late. I was in my late 20s, and I started going to the gym, and I felt like it was a chore. I remember literally sitting on the floor and doing a sit up and crying, like, this hurts. And I was living in Queens, New York, and I remember that moment. It was difficult. And once I started doing it, I started feeling good. So then I was like, I'm going because it makes me feel good. So this thing where this feeling of safety in us, the safe interior, that healer inside, is that connected piece that says, hey, I'm not alone. You're never alone. If we look around us, not just physical forms, but the non-physical or nature, and and positive connections that we have in our lives. And so what I try to do is every day I try to add 2 ideas of new connections to bring like a louder voice to that safe space, bring it up in volume in me, so I don't feel so overwhelmed and challenged. This is not a mental health program; it's a spiritual health program, um, and that's somewhat to me even more difficult. I think my mind can be filled with disturbance and disturbed thinking and experiences, visual and otherwise, that stimulate me in the wrong direction or a toxic direction. But it's the spirit of who I am, this healer inside, this safe person that I can sit with myself. So whatever's happening, I'm not overwhelmed. So one of my friends listened to my last podcast and said, "Slow down." She's quite a good writer, so I'm taking the note. Information, when it's given to us in a very fast way, is hard to digest. I can't digest it. Um, so then I wanted to tell myself. So I'm taking 2 new actions today that will continue this transformation or re, re refocus on this inner safe space. Um, and what I like to think about every day is how did I react to things? That tells me a lot about whether I'm kind of doing this process, if I'm in touch with my safety. So I'll be cut off by a car and I'm, hey, you bastard, get the F out of my way. I could say anything I want here, so get the fuck out of my way. I'm pretty aware in that moment I am not feeling aligned with my safe space. Even a line. I don't get on lines very often. A supermarket line is where I might be, and I get reactive or stressed, or someone tries to push ahead of me, and I'm ready to like pounce. It would take there. I find I don't have edges like I used to. I have edges that are more about safety, physical safety of people I love. But do I have edges if somebody is rude and inconsiderate and they're struggling in themselves and they're finding like a need to act out or react and take control. A lot of what I witness or see in the world is I'm trying to take control. And when I see that, I immediately recognize that as fear based. It's how I would operate out of my fear. So when I try to stay in that space of safe care, and if I were asking questions of myself today, which I'm going to because there's no one else here asking, um, I would say, I thought of this question, which if it was my circumstance, I really have to come through this in a very direct way. I work for the government and I'm furloughed, but about to get fired because of the political landscape. Um, that's a tough one. And my family depends on this income from, paying the mortgage and feeding our children. Well, I would say it is a very difficult circumstance for anyone to navigate. I have this very big I have a connection to some safety every day. Would I still feel safe? Would I still know I'd be okay and kind of navigate it and without overwhelming my being overwhelmed and totally stressed out? I don't know. If I were being bounced around for the political gain of someone else, would I feel okay about it? I doubt it. I think I'm very likely to be the person who would just quit and avoid the circumstance. I always felt and still feel, and maybe it's because I have this work I do every day, that no matter what happens in my life, I will find my way. I will find my way. And part of that is that I do this daily and connecting, but the other is I've seen it hundreds of times. You lose something that you thought you couldn't lose, and then you stand up and new people come into your life and things change and it works out with some extra work, but it does always seem to come back to a support for my life. There's support for my life. So when we have things we cannot control, I saw this. I'm very much aligned with this animal called the sloth. I find the sloth is doing it right. The sloth is saying, um, don't move fast because it won't make a difference. It's not going to help. In fact, live your life peacefully and comfortably and take your time because the things that are going to happen anyway. So I don't think that's a great symbol for an activist, a political activist, but I don't consider myself a political activist. I think of myself as a human activist. So the sloth, there's a T-shirt. The sloth is sitting in meditation, and it's saying, I have everything is out of my control anyway, so let it go. And I love that T-shirt. I thought that's exactly what is going on. It's out of control, and I can't do anything except this. So when we are in this, willingness to find the safe space in us, and we were willing to do a little bit. I think it's hard to do a lot in that regard. I've never been someone who would go to a Catholic church or another kind of religious structure that requires my attendance 2 or 3 times or even once a week. I've always been like, I want some group to take advantage, to have insight, to grow with, and I want to do it when I want to do it. I mean, that's me. So when I have that that need to reconnect that way, I find that group. But um, yeah, I think it's feeling safe is about this inside job that I'm recommending everyone do. Um, so that job that I don't have anymore because I worked for the government, and of course I'm talking about the federal government. And now they just said you can go home, and then a little email came. We may not have a job for you next week. Again, threatening. I would just simply leave. And it may cost a lot of stress and emotional change that the body, that my whole family has to go through. But sometimes change is necessary. So I have these another challenge of learning to be comfortable with myself and in my safe space in my mind. And in my mind is the key. So if my mind is filled with thinking, such as to myself, that was stupid. Um, yeah, not a great way to connect to that place of safety. Certainly, a big, my family may have trained me to think this, and they did. Um, so that piece, that particular kind of work is about kind of trace it back to its root and realize it's not germane to my circumstance today. It's a story I've had in my head, and that story isn't true. I'm not at all able to dismantle or deconstruct our, inherited traumas. I've done that for myself in my own mind, but they're very important and valid and very much in the way of finding that safe space. So when you find those, you definitely air them, tell people about them that you trust. Don't sit with them by yourself. Um, so there's this new program I started recently, and this came out of sitting here and doing this YouTube, which is on my website, howweheal.site. .com was taken. So howweheal.site, I have this amazing intuitive training program, 5 years in the making. I started, I guess, when I went to Cape Cod one summer and did this miles and miles of walking on the beach. This idea came to me. And I, at that time, did these incredible videos that I felt were were not up to par. They weren't up to speed. I was uncomfortable in front of the camera. I was reaching and stretching myself to talk on a camera. So I did these videos, which I never released. And I've since now have grown into camera ready. So this program is on that website. And it's great because it's incredibly reasonable, and it can help you take a half an hour or 45 minutes and get a training and then take this instruction in the training to use during the whole month. So you have a little practice that you get to develop these direct connections to your safety. So the key for me every day is taking that moment to take a couple of actions just to expand this connection, whatever that might be for me. Sometimes it's about spending time in nature and relaxing my mind. That's one of my single connections I love to make. Sometimes it's just reaching out to someone who wants to share what they're going through. And it kind of gives me perspective on my own mind and my own life experiences and what I think I'm doing. A lot of times it's just 5 minutes of intentional relaxing my mind. I wouldn't call it meditation. It's more about not paying attention to the outside very much, sort of just staying internally connected. So there are thousands and thousands of ways to do this, and I always recommend you do it any way you can, 2 things a day to help yourself stay connected to the safe part of you, the healer in you. And the point of this is we are, there's in a sense, and it's not direct to physics, but there is a biological element to our body. Of course, we have that, but that biology has an electric field, and we are going to connect with very little effort. I guarantee it. To people also bringing that quieter voice that actually knows to take steps when they're necessary and feel connected to the decision to make changes as they are appropriate, which is a very different kind of energy to, oh my gosh, I have to do something now. Things are falling apart. Yeah, because that's not a place I make decisions out of. Um, so I'm really glad to see that my subscribers have grown. Thank you, everyone. It's okay you don't want to talk to me while I share these ideas, but certainly subscribe and watch these videos later. So that howweheal.site, my program of intuitive training, which I've done for years, is unfortunately for many out of reach. But howweheal.site has this incredibly, it's the price of, like, today I would say 3 Starbucks coffees a month to do. So, and I don't know if anyone can relate to the price, but that's what I want to say about it. I want everyone who was looking for that help and support to find this. So it's been, again, a very good journey for me. I feel every time I do this and sit with you guys and come to this camera at the studio at Upstate Podcast Studio in Kingston, which is an amazing place to do this, and everyone should check out, and call Drew English, that I come out of these sessions, I would call them sessions for me. They're this piece today, this carries me for about a week. I feel very grounded. I feel nurtured. I feel I'm not in my head. I really feel connected to my body. And I'm not worried about the future, but I'm certainly in the present. And for the most powerful changes historically have come when people pay attention to the present. I said this before the day of this election, the day that this new person was elected, which was before they were inaugurated. I said there are 2 things that could help. One, the blue states withhold federal funds, all right, and create a bipartisan committee that requires 2/3 votes for any executive orders to be allowed to pass. And that change financially would change everything. And my second note, which I wrote every person I could write several times, some TV personalities who I admire, and my political people, the senators and congressmen and congresswomen, was massive community protest. What I've seen in this last year, less than a year, it feels like a year, is white-haired people like me on street corners with 20 signs, people who I know protested during the Vietnam War. And I go, where are the young people? We need them. So please participate. There's something coming up October 18th, No King's Day. I can't tell you how important this is to do it in a massive scale. I think we're fooling ourselves to think that anything will change unless we do protests that are giant. And even with those, it's a stretch. All right. Well, thank you for being here today and letting me bend your ear with how, navigating the now, turning the volume up on healing, letting go of our fear, and creating a community together. I'll see you next week. Bye.